Hi, welcome to our virtual showcase for The Insanity of Mary Girard by Lainey Roberson. My name is Joann Shaver, and I'm the director of this show. Here, we have compiled some interviews, scenes, and monologues from the show for you. Because of COVID-19, we are unable to perform the script in its entirety. So throughout the showcase, we will have some narration to help fill in the blanks for you. Let's start off with some interviews hosted by our events coordinator, Chris Cooper, interviewing our stage manager, Caitlin Jeffers, and our assistant stage manager, Kayla Osborne.
Hello everybody, Christian Cooper here. I am the events coordinator at the University of Southern Mississippi, and I am here with the stage manager of Joann Shaver's qualifying project, The Insanity of Mary Girard. Caitlin, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Caitlin, as you probably know. I am the stage manager for Joann's qualifying project, like Cece just said.
Cool. So, Caitlin, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little about yourself and tell us a little about the show?
So I am a senior BA, so kind of a jack of all trades.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really picked one major area to focus in just because I wanted to learn a little bit about everything, including stage management, which ties into this experience. No, it's not a main stage. It's just a qualifying project, but that doesn't give it any less credit. It's a wonderful show about a woman who is unfairly locked up in an insane asylum by her husband. And it follows her through her trials and tribulations there in the asylum, and it's really, really interesting, and I wish that we had been able to perform it.
I wish I could have been able to see it in its full capacity. So, Caitlin, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is your first time stage managing. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
So, how was that experience for you before you had to switch to online?
It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about what the stage manager does and how they have to coordinate not only with the cast, but with the ASMs and the directors and the designers. So a lot more goes into it than I originally thought, but it was so worth it.
Yeah. I remember when I took a stage managing class in undergrad, I learned that it was something that I personally could never do, and I have such respect for people who can. So before switching to online, was there any part of the process that you felt was going very well?
The cast coordination. Everyone worked phenomenally together. The energy was always really high. Everyone, they all did their part above and beyond.
Nice. Okay, so now that you've switched to working remotely, and you're having to stage manage online now, how's that going?
It's definitely interesting because the meetings are about the actors. So it's
Right.
when they can meet and whenever they're available. So I'm in and out of the meetings. When I'm there, it's mostly note taking. Since I don't have any, scenery pieces to track, no props tracking. So definitely a change for sure.
And then after the switch to working online, what do you feel is still working very well after the switch?
Still majority of the cast coordination. Just they're all taking this at such in stride. It's a difficult situation that we're all in, but they all want to share the show, and
Nice.
they prove it through their work.
Nice. Keeping the morale high. That's great.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So now that you're working remotely, how has the process shifted from working in person to working online?
We're not worried about much physicality anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly just the lines themselves. Because, I mean, like, we can't get up and move around on stage like we would have been able to.
Right.
The actors have to be contained to this little box. Whereas before, the movements of the actors was so specialized, especially with the Fury characters. Each one of them had their own little niche thing that they were doing, and they just can't showcase it like they did before.
That's very very unfortunate. Were there any aspects that you found more difficult than others?
The technical difficulties.
Brave new world of technology.
Right. The Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
It's kind of iffy for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Lagging happens, but we all just kind of go with it.
Yeah. Yes, and as the improvers would say.
Yes, and.
Cool. One final question. What have you personally taken out of this whole experience? From whether it be from it being your first time stage managing or the first time doing theater digitally, like what is your number one takeaway from this entire thing?
As a stage manager, it's something that I definitely want to do again. Be it at any level, community theaters, wherever I end up. As for everything being online, art finds a way. No pandemic is going to keep us down. We're going to do what we love and continue doing what we love for as long as we possibly can, even if that means that we have to be online over laptops and camcorders, trying our best to make people laugh and make people smile.
Nice. Very, very inspiring. Thank you so much for this, Caitlin. This has been great, and I look forward to seeing the show, The Insanity of Mary Girard, in its online, new and improved format.
Well, I can't wait for you to see it, and I can't wait for everyone else to see it. I know everyone's worked really, really hard on it, so enjoy.
All right. Thanks a lot, Caitlin.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Hello, everybody. My name is Christian Cooper. I am a third-year acting graduate student here at the University of Southern Mississippi. I am also the events coordinator, and I am here talking with Kayla Orsborn, the ASM of Joann Shaver's qualifying project, The Insanity of Mary Girard. So, Kayla, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and a little about the show?
Well, I'm here at USM to become a director. I went to Hines Community College before that, did 3 years there. Joann's great. She's really passionate about this show. It's a really good show. It's kind of on the dark, crazy side, but it's a really cool show.
Awesome. Now, Kayla, you've ASM'd before, is that correct?
Yes, I did some ASM work at Hines on a couple of shows. I did some at my high school as well. I've also stage managed the FST last semester.
Nice. So how does this experience, ASMing for Joann on her qualifying project, how is this compared to the other times you've ASM'd?
It's a whole lot more professional feeling about it. She's trying to give me and my stage manager as much professional feeling as possible, so when we go into the real world, we know what we're getting ourselves into. The others were just like, here's what I need you to do, and do it. It was very high school done. So.
Gotcha. Okay, so before working remotely, before switching to online rehearsals, was there any part of the process that you felt was going particularly well?
All of it.
All of it? All right.
Going great. All of it was going great. The actors were learning their lines. They were getting a feel for the space. we were all really excited to get it up and going and actually get people in the seats, and then bummer happened.
Gotcha. Well, I'm sure Joann and the cast will be very pleased to hear that you felt all of it was going very well. So now that you have switched to online rehearsals, how is that going for you guys?
Not very good, because now that I'm online, my boss thinks I'm free and open, so I haven't actually been able to make a lot of the rehearsals. So, yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But you've been able to make a couple of them, right?
Yeah, and everything seems to be going well.
Okay, so what do you feel now that you guys are online from the rehearsals that you've been able to make? What do you feel is going particularly well with the online switch?
Mm. Well, the actors are still, doing great and stuff. Joanne's still giving good feedback. I don't have a good sense of how we're going to do it. So I'm just, whatever they need, I'm here, and just everything's kind of up in the air.
Gotcha. So how has the actual process of putting this up shifted from working in person to working online?
Well, there's a whole lot. Because when I was there, I could fill in for somebody, actually hop up and fill in for somebody with my notes, or if they're blocking's pretty much been thrown out of the water, kind of. And so it's no, you said you wanted that chair to go there. It has that change. So there's blocking I was doing, and now it's just well,
right.
There's a whole lot less for me to do.
Gotcha. So were there any aspects that you found more difficult than others?
I don't think I understand your question.
Sure. Okay. So with the switch to online rehearsals, what has been particularly difficult about that switch?
Well, for me, before we went online, I actually didn't have internet at my house. We had it before, but then over Christmas break, we lost it because financial issues on my part. And so it was a fight to get that back, which is why I missed a big chunk of the earlier rehearsals. And then my boss being oh, well, you're online now, classes, you can do it when you get home, but then I'm missing rehearsal and stuff. So that's another big chunk of it that I'm missing. And it's just craziness.
Gotcha. And my final question, what has been your biggest takeaway with this entire experience? And this can be a two-parter. It can be what you took away from the show as a whole, from ASMing the show, and then what you took away from the experience of having to ASM an online show.
That's actually a really good question. It's actually not a two-parter. Both sides has been pretty much be reliable and be flexible. Things change on a dime, whether you're doing it like we've done it for centuries, or a pandemic happens and we now have to figure out how to do it online. Just roll with the punches and be there when people need you to be there. And great stuff happens.
Gotcha. I think that's a very, very good lesson, a very good takeaway for this entire experience. Well, Kayla, thank you so much. This has been great. I look forward to seeing the Insanity of Mary Girard in its new and improved online medium. So thank you very much, guys. This has been Christian Cooper and Kayla Orsborn signing off.
Before we begin the show, I would like to introduce everyone. You've met our stage manager, Caitlin, our assistant stage manager, Kayla, and our events coordinator, Chris. While still on campus, we had a wonderful sound designer, Allison Boucher, and a magnificent movement coordinator, Mimi Harris. Our cast consists of Katie Borum as Mary Girard, Evan Cochran as Stephen Girard, Michael Harrison as the warder, Essence Washington as Mrs. Lum, Claire Mitchell as Polly Kenton, Matt Hogan as Mr. Phillips, and Grace Bronner as Mrs. Hatcher. For our virtual showcase, Grace Bronner will also be acting as our narrator. Although this pandemic has moved around our lives, it can't stop the theater. For us, it is only intermission. And just like Mary and our dramatic action statement, we hope that you survive the inescapable. So sit back, relax, and enjoy scenes from The Insanity of Mary Girard.
We start our show in a chair. This chair is the tranquilizing chair, set in the Pennsylvania hospital in the year 1790. A woman is in the chair, Mrs. Mary Girard. The lights come up and we hear voices calling her name. The voices are furies, or figments of Mary's imagination. The furies begin crawling towards her, tantalizing her. Once Mary figures out where she is, the furies set her free. Mary then has a flashback to when she first arrived at the hospital.
Here you go, Mary. Here. That is your name, ain't it?
My name is Mrs. Stephen Girard. You will call me by that name if you address me again.
Oh no, I calls you Mary. I was under strictest orders not to call you any such a false name as that.
But I am Mrs. Girard. There is nothing false about that.
Oh, well then you'll be fitting right at home. We have the Queen of France and the King of Poland in here too. Call yourself whatever you like. It'll cut no ice with me. I calls you Mary because I was told by Mr. Girard himself I was to call you so.
But you know who I am. You came to my home in your carriage to bring me to see the doctor. You know I am Mrs. Girard.
I went to Mr. Girard's home, not yours. All I know is you're Mary. Other than that, I don't want to know.
But I am his wife, Mary Girard.
I'm telling you the truth. It's Mary ye may be, and Mary ye remain, as far as I'm concerned, unless ye be taken to the name Queen Sheba. Then I'll be calling you that.
Look, I have some money.
Oh, you'd be glad you'd be giving this to me. I'll make sure you get some real food, some of the time. Perhaps a pint of something, warm and on occasion.
You don't understand. I came here to see the doctor, and you are to take me back home at once.
Oh, home? Well, this is your home now, Mary. And it's cheery, too, in daylight. That is, if you're able to see the daylight, on account of all the admirers you'll be seeing in the windows over there.
What admirers?
Tomorrow's Sabbath. Lots of folks will be out in a holiday mood. You'll see for yourself then, I figure.
No, I won't be here tomorrow. Look, I came to see the doctor about a personal problem. Where is he, sir?
My name's Frankie. You be good to Frankie, and Frankie will be good to you too, Mary.
Look, I demand that you take me to see the doctor at once.
Snooty, ain't he? Wants to see a doctor right away. Well, doctors don't come around at once. I suppose they'll be here week after next. I guess you'll just have to wait till then, all right?
Do you have any idea who my husband is?
Well, I know who you claims he be.
Well, he's the wealthiest man in the city of Philadelphia.
Wouldn't surprise me much.
Possibly the wealthiest in all the Republic.
Oh yeah, that too.
Well, if you keep me here against my will, you will be making a terrible mistake. He might sue this hospital, its board of directors, you, and everyone connected with it.
Nope, I don't think so. Seems I know more about your Mr. Girard than you do, Mary.
I doubt that anyone in your position would know anything at all about the likes of Mr. Girard, but your superiors will.
All I know is Mr. Girard himself that says you's lunatic, and asked most kindly that you be put in here. That's all that I know.
Well, that's a lie. How dare you impugn my husband's name with such a lie?
Some say you done some of the impeachment yourself, Mary Girard.
How dare you? What are you doing?
Oh, locking the door to your new home. It's customary.
No, you cannot keep me here. Where am I? Is this a prison? What authority do you have to do this to me? Please, I just want to go home. Please do not do this to me.
I'm only doing what I get paid for doing. It's my job. I only take orders from what's higher up.
But surely you can see that this is wrong.
Oh, they're your wrongs, Mary, not mine. I'm not paid to see what's right or wrong. It's not my business. My business is locking you up. The rest is not my business.
You will drive me mad.
Oh, it's not my business. My business is locking you up. The rest is not my business.
You will drive me mad.
Oh, it's not my business. My business is locking you up. The rest is not my business.
Answer me. Is this a prison?
Well, that's mighty insulting of you. This is the Pennsylvania hospital founded by Mr. Franklin himself for the treatment of poor sick folks like you. Lucky for him, you died this year. Otherwise, he might be highly offended by the way you're talking about his fine hospital.
But I'm not a lunatic.
Oh, that's not for you to say. That's for Mr. Girard to say. He'll be your legal guardian in this matter, and the one who put you in here.
Stop saying that. Mr. Girard would never. Even if he did, he has no authority. He's no doctor. He is not medically qualified to pronounce me either sane or insane.
Oh, well, he's your husband, isn't he? Stephen Girard?
Yes.
Well, then there you be. He don't got to be your doctor. All he's got to be is your husband. That makes him your legal guardian. And by law, whenever a legal guardian says the one they're guardian over is lunatic, we picks him up, we puts him in here. We got lots of women folk in here on account of the delicacy of their minds.
Look at me, sir. You can see that I am not like those others.
Oh, well, lots of crazy folks look just fine when they come in here. I give you about a month, then I bet I won't be able to tell you apart from the rest.
For God's sake, look at me. Do I appear to be without my reason?
Have you never heard of the wives' tale, never judge a book by its cover?
I tell you, I am sane.
Yep, that's what most of them thinks too.
Listen to me. Even though Mr. Girard is my legal guardian, surely someone must make a legal document declaring me insane. Isn't that true?
Oh, right is right.
Well, then this has been a dreadful mistake because I haven't been examined yet. My husband said that I was to come here to see a doctor.
Yep, that's what we tell them. Just want to go see a doctor. It works nearly every time. Sometimes we tell them we're going to go see a dentist, just for variety's sake. We say, oh, and I got a legal binding document written by Mr. Shefford, one of the managers of this whole establishment, and he says that he got a little letter from Mr. Girard saying that ye, his wife, is lunatic, and be requesting that you be held here for the rest of your natural life. Less, of course, you be cured.
Not just with me, sir.
Oh, it's no jest. The locks in here are the finest and realest you'll ever encounter, and your inmates, outright lunatics, every last one. I'll be getting the good Dr. Rush's chair. It seems you're experiencing signs of exhortations. You'll feel better then. See if you don't.
After this flashback scene, the Furies return. Mary then asks to see her mother. They are wary of letting her, but eventually give in. We believe this scene and the following ones to be a part of Mary's imagination.
Madam, you sent for me?
Mother, you've come to me.
Of course I would come at the bidding of Mrs. Girard. I couldn't possibly do otherwise, could I? Although I cannot pretend to understand why you wanted me here.
Oh, I need you, Mother.
Need me, madam? You never needed me very much, and now I'm sure you need me not at all. You mustn't speak extravagantly. Surely there's nothing I can do for you that you haven't the wherewithal to do much better than I.
But it isn't money that I need of you.
I should think not.
It's comfort I need of you now.
Comfort? You live in the very heart of comfort. Never have I seen a house this fine, furnishings this rich. The shine on these floors make me afraid to step, lest they prove to be glass and crack underfoot. You must be happy here.
What are you saying? This is not my house. This is a cell for lunatics in the cellar of the great hospital. Do not mock me, madam. Surely you can see that it is cold and damp and horrid here.
I can only see that when you married above your station, it brought you great rewards. I can also see why you didn't want your family here, trasping the dirt from the workman's feet across your fine wood floors.
My family was not welcome here. Neither were my friends, and now I myself am not. I told you what things were like for me whenever I visited you. You must have believed me, didn't you?
Poor excuse speaks none.
You didn't believe me. You never did you? You thought I didn't want you here because I was ashamed of you.
Something like that, yes. But it's all right. We understood. Happens all the time. It's to be expected.
But it wasn't me at all. It was Mr. Girard. He didn't want you here.
That's all right, too. It wasn't kin to him. And I will not listen to you berate Mr. Girard. He was a prince to your father, an absolute prince. Had him working on his boats as long as he lived. I will not listen to you say bad words about Mr. Girard.
Mother, my husband abuses me.
Shame on you for giving him cause, and double shame that you be brazen enough to tell it. You should have learned by now that there is nothing wrong with a husband abusing his wife. It is a woman's place to be wise enough to make it seem as though she does her husband's will, whether she do or no. If you have been married this longest time, madam, and have not learned that, I have no doubt that you have made a sorry time for yourself and poor Mr. Girard.
And must the wife always bend to the husband's will, whether it be right or wrong?
Most assuredly. It is a husband's place to rule his wife, and the woman's place to obey her husband.
And why must that be so?
Because it is law.
Whose law?
God's law. When you married, you made a vow to honor and obey your husband, madam, until death do you part. Do you dare question the law of God himself?
If it is unjust.
It is not possible for God's law to be unjust.
If you say that this is God's law, then why didn't you tell me about this law before I married Mr. Girard?
Because you were a woman, madam.
I was 16 years old. I was a girl.
It was your wish to marry.
It was Mr. Girard's wish to marry me.
You weren't so innocent as that, madam. Your marriage was a financial transaction, and your father and I, you knew that Mr. Girard had money, and that if you married him, it meant that you would never have to work another day in your life.
Then why did you speak to me about love and home?
Because I thought it would be easier for you if you loved him.
But you know I didn't. I was a servant. I just wanted a home of my own.
You knew what you were doing. You got the home you wanted and so much more. The shine on this house blinds the eye.
Look about you. Nothing you see here is mine. I have nothing, madam, nothing.
Then you can only blame yourself. A wise woman never lets her husband know the distaste she has for him. You should have dissembled more and hid whatever loathing you have for him behind a wall of feigned affection.
I would have been a liar.
You would have dissembled more.
I asked you here because I have desperate news. I am with child.
Polly, that's wonderful.
No.
Nothing more could please a childless man. Mr. Girard must be overjoyed.
No.
You mean he is not?
I haven't told him.
But you must, at once.
No, I cannot.
What do you mean you cannot?
I fear for my safety. I fear for what he might do to me.
Do to you?
It is not Mr. Girard's child.
Holly, no.
I've informed Mr. Girard that I intend to leave his house. I want to come home again. I can bring you nothing but my gratitude and a still fond regard for you.
I cannot help you, madam. It would have been better for you to have had his child.
Don't you think I tried to have a child by him?
I can only see that you have stupidly jeopardized your own well-being and everything else as well. If Mr. Girard repudiates you, so must I. If Mr. Girard repudiates you, so must I.
No, please, don't leave me. Don't leave.
The Furies enter again and present a new scene. This one involves Mary's husband, Stephen Girard, and a doctor from the hospital, Mr. Phillips.
How things are with her? What do you mean by that?
Dr. Rush asked that I speak to you personally, Mr. Girard, to make known to you certain surprising developments that have just now come to our attention regarding the state or condition of your wife, sir.
I do not know if you value your time, but I do mine. Please be brief.
I will try.
Let's get this bothersome business settled. Now, if there are any questions as to the adequacy of the monthly payment of her expenses, I shall naturally increase the allotment to whatever sum is necessary. Although I will remind you that both you and Dr. Hutchinson assured me that the amount settled on was more than sufficient.
Oh, no, Mr. Girard, let me assure you it is not a question of cost. The generosity of your settlement is well known by all those concerned in this matter. No, the hospital cannot ask for a more beneficial arrangement. No, sir, it is not a financial matter that brings me here, but rather one concerning your wife's mental and physical condition.
So I am quite familiar with the one and not at all interested in the other. I doubt there is anything you can tell me that will be the least bit of interest to me. Nonetheless, as she yet remains my wife, and you have taken it upon yourself to interrupt my affairs in this matter, I am willing to listen to you, only briefly.
I have rather surprising news for you and for all of us at the hospital. Mrs. Girard is with child.
Yes?
You mean, sir, you've been cognizant of the fact?
I have.
And were you so aware when you had her brought to us?
Yes, sir, I was.
And yet you had her brought to us to be confined with the mentally insane.
Most certainly. I find it curious that I have to point out to you that physical conditions have nothing whatsoever to do with the state of one's mind. I brought my wife to you because she is insane. That has nothing to do with whatever physical conditions she may be in.
Mr. Girard, I'm happy to tell you that is not always the case. Although true, the mind functions separately from the body which supports it, there's one major exception to that general rule.
And what might that be?
The state of pregnancy. It is not uncommon for a woman with child to exhibit many of the signs we ordinarily only ascribe to the insane. You see, many of the irregularities you spoke of are quite possibly due to nothing more than the naturally flighty state of mind brought on in many women by the physical changes in the female body during the prenatal period. In other words, when a woman is wont with imaginings, she can suffer strange cravings, certain outbursts of temper and abusive language that one does not normally expect. Therefore, her behavior may become erratic in a fashion that is often alarming to those who are used to a more sedate and stately behavior on part of the lady. Consequently, under these circumstances, the board of directors and I agree that it is in everyone's best interest that you remove Mrs. Girard from our care, allow her the usual confinement for the later stages of pregnancy, and upon her deliverance of your child, she will most probably prove to be as sane as she ever was. What I'm trying to tell you, sir, is the happy news that Mrs. Girard is quite possibly, even probably, as sane as you or I.
My wife, sir, is insane.
Mr. Girard.
I said she is insane.
Your wife suffers from severe headaches. She is extremely nervous. Upon occasion, she has exhibited erratic behavior and abusive language. If she were not pregnant, one might think close care, quiet, and an extended rest might not be enough to restore her normal faculties. However, as she is with child.
That is a fact I wish you and the members of the board to disregard. Whether she is with child or not, be no concern of yours nor anyone else's. I tell you in all candor, it is not a fact I wish ever to be known. Nor do I feel kindly disposed toward you, sir, for having pushed this loathsome fact to my consideration. True, I was previously aware of her condition, but I have chosen of my own free will to ignore it. And it is my wish that you and all of the members of the board do likewise.
Sir, I am amazed. I have just told you your wife is soon to be delivered of your child. A child you seem determined will be gestated and born in a madhouse, amongst scenes of the most horrid chaos, amongst madmen and madwomen, and you advise me to ignore it.
Precisely.
Mr. Girard, I'm trying to tell you that given these newly discovered circumstances, we cannot permit you to leave Mrs. Girard in these conditions. Indeed, to place such a woman in such surroundings at such a time is to pose the greatest possible threat to one's sanity, no matter how sound in mind she may have been beforehand.
I see. Well then, perhaps this payment in advance will be more than gracious enough. You see, I do not wish to be bothered any further with any difficulties that may arise due to my wife's confinement. Therefore, I humbly ask that you personally see to it that any references to her child, if it should live, or any other difficulties concerning her, are kept away from my awareness. And to the board of directors, mention to them that I will assume all responsibilities in writing, of course. Tell them also that within a month of my unfortunate wife's demise, the hospital shall receive a check identical to the one you hold there. Now, you need not ever mention this check. I feel a man's finances are no one's affairs but his own. Tell them, too, that upon my death I shall bequeath Pennsylvania Hospital a sum no less than 10 times the amount written there. All this to be above and beyond the sums already agreed upon for her daily care. All this in accordance to the superb treatment accorded to the insane woman who unfortunately still bears my name.
I don't know what to say.
Answer only this. Can it be done?
Yes.
Answer only this. Can it be done?
Yes.
Good. See to it. I believe you know your way out.
But sir.
Sir.
What of the child?
That is no concern of mine.
I would have no child of mine born under such circumstances for all the money in the world.
And I can assure you, sir, neither would I.
Mr. Girard, do you mean to tell me that—
I bid you good day, sir.
Through the Furies, we learn that Stephen, Mary's husband, is already with a new woman, Miss Polly Kenton.
What are you talking about? Who are you and what are you doing here? I don't know who you are.
My name's Polly Kenton. There's no reason why it should be important to you. I'm only one in a long line of housekeepers who will replace you, Mrs. Girard.
And you admit that to my face.
I'm not important, really. Only one in a long line of girls and women he will turn to. Has turned to already. You know that.
Yes, I know it. I know that Sally Bickham the slut. He brought her into my home and called her his housekeeper. Tried to keep me out of town so I couldn't see she had taken over my room. And you're just like her, is that it?
In a way, just like her.
And there will be others too, I suppose.
I'm sure there will be.
And so you're a whore just like all the others.
I'm his housekeeper, Mrs. Girard. The difference is I will be more successful and longer lasting than the rest. He will even come to care for me a little, as much as he is able to care for a woman anyway.
I don't believe you.
I wouldn't lie to you, Mrs. Girard, because I have no need to do so.
Why didn't he care about me?
In the beginning he did. You should have had his child.
But it wasn't my fault that we didn't have children. I thought it was, and I knew he blamed me. He never said anything. And sometimes, as I was sewing, I'd suddenly feel cold, as though a draft of icy wind had pierced me. And I'd look up, and I'd see him staring at me. Only that, only staring. And I knew he was looking at me as though I were a column of figures that didn't quite balance his cash books. Later, he began sending me to doctors, and they said I was a nervous woman. So he would send me into the country to cure my nerves. And then I began to have these terrible headaches, and I hated to be around him, for I knew that he felt I had swindled him for not giving him a son.
You sound as though you wanted him to care for you.
Is that so strange?
It isn't practical. You should have known what he had to give you and what he did not. You should have known what he wanted in return and seen to it that you gave it to him.
His affection was all I wanted.
But he had none to give. Wealth is what he had to give you.
But that was nothing to me. Nothing.
If you had given him a baby, you would have won his undying gratitude. And if you had have managed to have a son, you would have won his affection as well.
But we tried to have children, and we could not.
You should have seen to it that you gave him a child, even if it wasn't his. He would have thought it his, and your end of the bargain would have been complete. You would have won his affection.
Must it be like a business transaction?
All relationships are. Everyone expects to get something in return for what they're giving. And if you misjudge the stakes or barter foolishly, take what you do not want, offer what you cannot give, then the relationship won't last. Or else what is far worse, it will last for a long time with each bitterly believing he was cheated, but too ashamed to admit it, even to himself.
You have not had his children, have you?
Of course not. A man expects his wife to bear his children and his mistress to bear none.
Yet you have won his affection.
Yes, I have.
Why? How?
By not even wanting it. I've always been honest with him. He knows all I want from him is a comfortable home. In exchange, I've given him a solicitous care. I've babied him, become his mother, his mistress. And I've always known the mistress is only incidental. I've let him become the little boy with me that he wanted from you. When he was a boy, his mother went insane. He saw in you that which had closed him off from her. Your behavior has made him come to hate you.
He has said that to you.
I can tell you his words exactly. I hate her like the devil and note with pleasure that this feeling increases daily.
No, I don't believe you. I won't.
I hate her like the devil and note with pleasure that this feeling increases daily.
He would never say that. He would never feel that.
I hate her like the devil and note with pleasure that this feeling increases daily.
What intolerable wrong did I do him?
Perhaps he does not know himself. The fact is, however, you are not sensible. You see, it is never sensible to expect a man to understand or tolerate the dreams of his wife.
In this next piece, we see a Fury questioning Mary's sanity.
You never picked flowers, did you, Mary? I picked more flowers than anyone has ever dreamed of. I had to hide them. You ever held a flower, Mary? Your very own flower, Mary. Tender and secret and gentle. Hide it in your arms, in your own secret place. Did you rock with it, Mary? Rock until each petal falls and the stem dries up and the cradle rocks. By yourself, Mary. Rock yourself, Mary.
Throughout the show, we see Mary lose a lot, including her sanity. In this last moment of the show, we see her accept the inescapable.
And if I am not mad, I soon shall be. For there is a point in my mind, a point of absolute stillness, where hatred, jealousy, and greed cannot come. A point of feeling, of being, which longing and unhappiness cannot touch. And when I pull myself into that place, I feel as though I have reached something like God, but greater, far greater than God. And in that place, I can look on my life as though it were a shadow show upon a wall. For all is quiet and peaceful and gentle there, for no human being can enter. And by comparison, the outside world is horrid with greed and heartless and cruel. So let them come to the windows to point and laugh at me. I will give them the respect they warrant. Dare let them come. I will give them the show that they expect and deserve. I will greet them with venom, caress them with violence, and address them with words obscene and gestures which are vulgar. I shall look them boldly in the eyes to curse them and spit on them from the depths of a well of hatred. And I shall have nothing to lose. For from this day, I, Mary Girard, shall be truly and happily insane. Insane, insane, insane.
Thank you all for joining us. We hope you all stay safe and have a lovely day.